What if everything you thought you knew about history was carefully crafted to hide the truth? What if the most powerful organizations on Earth have spent centuries burying secrets so dark, so explosive, that revealing them could reshape our understanding of civilization itself? Tonight, we're going to uncover 50 of history's most guarded secrets. Stories that have been whispered in shadowy corridors, locked away in classified vaults, and deliberately omitted from textbooks. These aren't conspiracy theories or wild speculation. These are documented events, suppressed testimonies, and uncomfortable truths that certain people would prefer remain buried forever. From ancient civilizations to modern governments, from religious institutions to corporate empires, the pattern is always the same. When the stakes are high enough, the truth becomes expendable. But tonight, the truth fights back. Secret 1. The lost civilization beneath Antarctica. Deep beneath Antarctica's ice sheets lies evidence of a civilization that challenges everything we know about human history. In 1947, Admiral Richard Byrd led Operation High Jump, officially described as a research mission. But recently declassified documents reveal something far more intriguing. The expedition discovered structures beneath the ice, structures that appear to predate known human civilization by thousands of years. Satellite imagery from the 1990s, hidden from public view for decades, shows geometric formations too perfect to be natural. These aren't random ice formations. They're planned, constructed, and massive. The question isn't whether something is down there. The question is why we've been told there isn't. Secret 2. The Vatican's Forbidden Archive. The Vatican's secret archives contain over 50 miles of shelving, holding documents spanning nearly 2,000 years. While some sections have been made public, the deepest vaults remain sealed. What's hidden in those restricted areas? In 1981, a Vatican insider leaked portions of documents dating to the 4th century, revealing that early church leaders deliberately suppressed texts that contradicted their version of Christianity. These weren't minor theological disagreements. They were fundamental contradictions about the nature of Christ, the afterlife, and humanity's relationship with the divine. The leaked documents describe gospels that were ordered destroyed, not because they were false, but because they were inconvenient. Imagine discovering that the foundation of Western civilization was built on carefully chosen half-truths. Secret 3. The real reason behind the Library of Alexandria's destruction. History tells us the Great Library of Alexandria was destroyed by fire, accident, or religious zealots. But ancient sources, recently translated from fragments found in Egyptian monasteries, tell a different story. The library wasn't destroyed to eliminate knowledge. It was raided systematically by Roman agents who removed specific texts before the building was burned. These weren't random scrolls. Roman records, discovered in 2003 but kept from mainstream archaeology journals, list exactly what was taken: advanced mathematical texts, engineering blueprints, and most intriguingly, geographical documents describing lands that wouldn't be discovered by Europeans for another 1,000 years. The library's destruction wasn't cultural vandalism. It was the ancient world's first state-sponsored cover-up. Secret 4. The missing dynasty of ancient Egypt. Egyptian chronology has a gap. Between the Old Kingdom and Middle Kingdom lies a period historians call the First Intermediate Period, described as a time of chaos and fragmentation. But papyrus fragments, found in the 1920s and immediately classified by the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities, tell of a dynasty that ruled during this time with technology that shouldn't have existed. These texts describe construction techniques using sounds to move massive stones, medical procedures involving precision that wouldn't be matched until the 20th century, and astronomical knowledge that suggests contact with advanced civilizations. The fragments were buried in museum basements, their existence denied, until a former curator leaked photocopies in 1987. Secret 5. The suppressed Maya prophecies. When Spanish conquistadors reached the Maya, they found libraries filled with thousands of codices. Only 4 survived the systematic burning ordered by Bishop Diego de Landa. But in 1999, ground-penetrating radar revealed a sealed chamber beneath the ruins of Chichen Itza, containing dozens of intact codices. The Mexican government has allowed only a select team of archaeologists to study these texts. Leaked translations describe prophecies extending far beyond 2012, including specific dates and events that have occurred with disturbing accuracy. More unsettling, the prophecies describe a period of sky wars beginning in the early 21st century, involving craft that move without wings or fire. The chamber remains off-limits to independent researchers. The official reason is preservation. The real reason might be prevention. Secret 6. The Knights Templars' real discovery. The Knights Templar weren't just warrior monks protecting pilgrims. During their excavation of King Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, they discovered something that transformed them from a minor religious order into the most powerful organization in medieval Europe. What did they find? French archives, unsealed in 1975, contain inventories of Templar treasures that go beyond gold and jewels. The lists include vessels of unknown metal, scrolls in scripts not of this world, and most intriguingly, the device that speaks without voice. These weren't metaphorical descriptions. They were carefully cataloged items with detailed measurements and weights. When the Templars were arrested in 1307, these specific items were never found. They had vanished along with a significant portion of the Templar fleet, which sailed from La Rochelle and was never seen again. Stop. Secret 7. The Black Death's true origin. The Black Death of 1347 to 1351 killed 1/3 of Europe's population, but its origin story contains deliberate gaps. Official histories blame trade routes bringing infected fleas from Asia, but chroniclers of the time, whose accounts were later suppressed, describe something different. Multiple sources from different regions describe the plague's arrival not through gradual spread, but through simultaneous outbreaks in cities with no direct connection. More disturbing, several chroniclers mention foul-smelling clouds and poison rains preceding outbreaks. These accounts were dismissed as superstition until biological warfare research in the 20th century revealed they were actually accurate descriptions of airborne pathogen deployment. Documents discovered in Mongol archives in 1991 describe biological warfare techniques developed during their siege of Kaffa, including the systematic cultivation of plague bacteria and methods of widespread dispersal. The Black Death wasn't just a pandemic. It was history's first successful biological weapon. Secret 8. The disappeared Cathars' final secret. The Cathar Crusade of 1209 to 1229 was officially about eliminating heresy, but the speed and brutality of the campaign suggests something more urgent than theological disagreement. What did the Cathars possess that threatened the Catholic Church so completely? In 1244, as the last Cathar stronghold at Montségur fell, 4 Cathars escaped, carrying something the chroniclers called the Cathar Treasure. This wasn't gold or silver. Papal records, discovered in 1967, describe urgent communications about recovering the texts that must not be read and the proofs that could not be allowed to survive. The escaped Cathars were never found, but their route was traced to the Pyrenees, where locals still tell stories of the perfect ones who carried sacred knowledge into hidden caves. ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted secretly by the French government have identified artificial chambers deep in the mountain, but they remain unexplored. Secret 9. The real reason for the Crusades. The Crusades weren't just about reclaiming the Holy Land. They were about controlling access to specific sites beneath Jerusalem, sites that held secrets dating to the time of Solomon's Temple. This becomes clear when examining what the Crusaders actually did after capturing Jerusalem in 1099. Instead of establishing typical colonial administration, they immediately began massive excavation projects. Chroniclers describe teams of workers digging beneath the Temple Mount in carefully planned patterns, following ancient maps acquired from Byzantine sources. They weren't searching randomly. They knew exactly what they were looking for. What they found transformed the balance of power in medieval Europe, providing the Catholic Church with leverage over both Islamic and Jewish authorities, who also knew the truth about what lay buried beneath the Holy City. Secret 10. The lost teachings of medieval alchemy. Medieval alchemists weren't just trying to turn lead into gold. They were preserving ancient knowledge about matter, energy, and consciousness that had been deliberately suppressed by religious authorities. This knowledge wasn't primitive pseudoscience. It was advanced understanding disguised as mysticism to avoid persecution. Alchemical texts, when decoded using techniques developed in the 20th century, reveal sophisticated understanding of atomic structure, electromagnetic principles, and consciousness-matter interaction that wouldn't be officially discovered until centuries later. The alchemists weren't seeking material wealth. They were preserving humanity's scientific heritage during a dark age of enforced ignorance. The most advanced texts were hidden in monastery libraries, their true meaning concealed beneath layers of religious symbolism. Many remain hidden there still. Secret 11. Leonardo da Vinci's forbidden inventions. Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks contain more than artistic genius and engineering marvels. Hidden within his mirror writing are designs for technologies so advanced that some couldn't be built until the 20th century. But some of his most extraordinary inventions were deliberately concealed, even from his patrons. In 1965, infrared analysis of Da Vinci's notebooks revealed hidden layers of text describing what he called the devices of ultimate power. These weren't weapons of conventional war. They were machines that could manipulate what Da Vinci termed the fabric of space itself. His drawings show devices remarkably similar to technologies being secretly developed in modern military programs. Da Vinci wrote that he deliberately scattered these designs across multiple notebooks and coded them in increasingly complex ciphers, because such knowledge in the wrong hands could unmake the world itself. Secret 12. The secret society behind the Renaissance. The Renaissance wasn't a spontaneous cultural awakening. It was carefully orchestrated by a secret network of scholars, artists, and nobles who had preserved ancient knowledge through the Dark Ages. This society, known only through encoded references as the Invisible College, deliberately chose Florence as their base of operations. Bank records from the Medici family, unsealed in 1994, show payments to dozens of scholars for special translations and ancient text recovery. These weren't random scholarly pursuits. They were systematic efforts to reconstruct lost libraries, particularly the mathematical and astronomical knowledge of ancient Alexandria. The society's members included not just Leonardo and Michelangelo, but also political leaders across Europe who coordinated their efforts to ensure that certain knowledge would survive the coming religious wars. Secret 13. Columbus's hidden mission. Christopher Columbus's voyage wasn't about finding a route to the Indies. He was following ancient maps provided by sources he never publicly identified. Maps that showed continents that officially didn't exist. His real mission was recovery, not discovery. Columbus's private journal, discovered in Spanish archives in 1968, describes his true purpose: locating the western lands described in the ancient texts, and recovering the wisdom that was scattered when the great waters rose. He wasn't seeking gold and spices. He was following clues to pre-flood civilizations. Most remarkably, his calculations of distance and direction were impossibly accurate for his supposed knowledge. He was working from information sources that possessed precise geographical knowledge of the Americas, centuries before any European was supposed to have reached them. Secret 14. The Suppressed Scientific Revolution. The scientific revolution began earlier than textbooks claim, and it was brutally suppressed by both religious and political authorities who understood its implications for their power structures. Scholars like Giordano Bruno weren't burned for abstract philosophical beliefs. They were eliminated because they possessed specific knowledge that could destabilize entire civilizations. Vatican records, partially released in 1992, show that the Inquisition targeted not just individual heretics, but entire networks of scholars who were sharing dangerous knowledge about the true nature of reality. This wasn't theological disagreement. It was suppression of scientific understanding that threatened religious and political authority. The scholars who survived did so by embedding their real discoveries within seemingly harmless works on mathematics, astronomy, or natural philosophy. Many of these hidden teachings remain undecoded. Secret 15. Shakespeare's true identity crisis. The question of Shakespeare's authorship isn't about literary snobbery. It's about hidden political and esoteric knowledge embedded within the plays. Whoever wrote these works had access to court secrets, advanced philosophical teachings, and historical information that wasn't available to a provincial actor. Computational analysis of the plays, conducted secretly by intelligence agencies in the 1970s, revealed embedded codes containing specific geographical coordinates, astronomical alignments, and what appears to be a sophisticated understanding of human psychology, centuries ahead of its time. The plays weren't just entertainment, they were information storage devices. The real author, whether individual or group, was preserving and transmitting knowledge that couldn't be shared openly without triggering persecution by authorities who understood exactly what was being communicated. Secret 16. The Lost Colony's real fate. Roanoke Colony didn't simply vanish. The colonists were systematically relocated as part of a secret agreement between English authorities and specific Native American tribes who possessed knowledge about ancient sites in the region. The word Croatoan wasn't a clue about their destination. It was a code indicating the operation was successful. Archaeological evidence, suppressed by the National Park Service since the 1960s, shows that the colonists integrated with local tribes and established settlements near sites containing pre-Columbian artifacts that suggest much older civilizations in North America than officially recognized. The colonists weren't lost. They were reassigned to a classified mission of discovery and recovery. Secret 17. The Salem Witch Trials cover-up. The Salem Witch Trials weren't about religious hysteria. They were about suppressing knowledge of psychoactive plants and consciousness-altering techniques that had been preserved by certain families since pre-Christian times. The accused weren't practicing witchcraft in the supernatural sense. They were maintaining scientific traditions disguised as folk medicine. Records from the trials, analyzed by ethnobotanists in the 1980s, reveal that many of the accused had extensive knowledge of plants containing compounds that wouldn't be formally identified until the 20th century. They understood neuropharmacology, psychological manipulation, and consciousness alteration centuries before these became recognized sciences. The trials eliminated not random citizens, but specific knowledge keepers who posed a threat to religious and political authorities by offering alternative understanding of reality and human potential. Secret 18. Benjamin Franklin's Occult Networks. Benjamin Franklin wasn't just a founding father and inventor. He was a key figure in international networks, preserving ancient knowledge and planning what he called the Great Work of Ages. His diplomatic missions to Europe weren't just about securing alliances. They were about coordinating with secret societies who had maintained hidden knowledge for centuries. Franklin's private papers, discovered in Philadelphia in 1987, reveal his membership in multiple esoteric organizations and his role in what he termed the Enlightened Conspiracy to liberate human knowledge from the chains of ignorance. The American Revolution wasn't just political independence. It was part of a larger plan to create a nation where suppressed knowledge could be preserved and developed. His electrical experiments were based on principles he learned from these secret sources, principles that suggested a much more advanced understanding of energy and consciousness than mainstream history admits. Secret 19. The real reason for the American Revolution. The American Revolution wasn't primarily about taxation without representation. It was about preventing the establishment of centralized control systems that would have made independent development of suppressed technologies impossible. The Founding Fathers were preserving not just political freedom, but intellectual and scientific freedom. Letters between the founders, classified until 1976, reveal their knowledge of the ancient sciences and their intention to create a nation where these could be developed without interference from European authorities who had suppressed such knowledge for centuries. The revolution was as much about scientific independence as political independence. Secret 20. Napoleon's Egyptian discoveries. Napoleon's Egyptian campaign included more than archaeologists documenting ancient monuments. The expedition made discoveries that fundamentally challenged European understanding of human history. Discoveries that were immediately classified and remain hidden in French archives to this day. The team discovered chambers beneath the Giza complex containing artifacts that suggested technology far advanced beyond ancient Egyptian capabilities. These weren't simple burial chambers. They were laboratories, workshops, and libraries that had been sealed for millennia. Most disturbing, some of the technology appeared to be operational. Napoleon returned to France with more than looted antiquities. He brought back knowledge that influenced his later political and military strategies in ways that historians still don't fully understand. Secret 21. The Civil War's hidden backers. The American Civil War wasn't just about slavery and states' rights. It was influenced by European financial interests who saw the rapidly industrializing United States as a threat to their global dominance. Both sides received backing from sources they never publicly acknowledged. Bank records from London and Paris, discovered in the 1990s, show massive financial support flowing to both Union and Confederate forces from the same investment groups. The goal wasn't to support either side, but to ensure the war lasted long enough to cripple American industrial development and prevent the United States from becoming a rival to European power. The assassination of Lincoln wasn't just about Southern revenge. It was about preventing his plans for post-war technological development that would have made America the dominant global power decades earlier than it actually occurred. Secret 22. Darwin's suppressed evidence. Charles Darwin's theory of evolution was based on more evidence than he ever publicly shared. His private correspondence, not released until 1958, reveals discoveries that suggested human development included influences that couldn't be explained by natural selection alone. During his voyage on the Beagle, Darwin documented artifacts and remains that indicated human civilization was far older and more sophisticated than accepted chronology allowed. He deliberately excluded this evidence from On the Origin of Species because he understood it would trigger suppression of evolutionary theory entirely. Darwin's hidden notebooks describe impossible artifacts found in geological layers where they couldn't exist according to established timelines. He chose to present a limited version of his discoveries, rather than risk losing the opportunity to share evolutionary principles at all. Secret 23. The Electrical War's Real Stakes. The battle between Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla wasn't just about electrical systems. It was about whether humanity would have access to energy technologies that could eliminate scarcity and transform civilization. Tesla's alternating current was just the beginning of discoveries that promised to revolutionize human society. Tesla's suppressed papers, confiscated after his death and still classified, describe energy extraction from what he called the cosmic reservoir, wireless power transmission across unlimited distances, and technologies for direct mental communication. These weren't theoretical concepts. They were working prototypes that demonstrated principles that still haven't been officially developed. Edison's opposition wasn't about business competition. He was working with financial and political interests who understood that Tesla's discoveries would eliminate their control over energy distribution and fundamentally alter power structures worldwide. Secret 24. The real Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper wasn't a random serial killer. The murders followed a specific pattern designed to eliminate women who possessed knowledge about royal family secrets that could have destabilized the British monarchy. The victims weren't chosen randomly. They were targeted because of what they knew. Recently declassified police files reveal that all victims had connections to a network of women who served as informal intelligence gatherers for political radicals. They possessed information about royal finances, foreign alliances, and personal scandals that would have triggered constitutional crises if revealed publicly. The murders stopped not because the killer was caught, but because the information was successfully suppressed through other means. Jack the Ripper was an assassin, not a madman. Secret 25. Lincoln's occult advisors. Abraham Lincoln didn't just rely on political and military advisors. He consulted with individuals who possessed knowledge of psychological manipulation, future prediction, and what they called the hidden forces that shape human events. These weren't simple spiritualists conducting seances. They were practitioners of sophisticated psychological and sociological sciences. Lincoln's private secretary documented regular meetings with advisors who provided insight that proved remarkably accurate about political and military developments. These consultations weren't about communicating with the dead. They were about accessing knowledge systems that allowed prediction of human behavior on massive scales. The advisors disappeared from Washington immediately after Lincoln's assassination, taking with them knowledge that could have prevented decades of political and social conflict. Secret 26. The Tongaska event's true cause. The 1908 Tongaska explosion in Siberia wasn't caused by a meteorite or comet. Soviet investigations, classified until 1991, concluded that the explosion resulted from an experiment in energy transmission that went catastrophically wrong. The blast pattern and aftermath evidence point to controlled release of massive energy, not random cosmic impact. Witness accounts describe a cylindrical object moving across the sky before the explosion, an object that changed direction multiple times in ways no natural meteorite could. The explosion site showed evidence of intense heat and electromagnetic disturbance that persisted for months after the event. Most tellingly, the area has shown unusual properties ever since, with plant growth rates and animal behavior patterns that suggest ongoing influence from unknown energy sources. Secret 27. The real reason for World War I. World War I wasn't triggered by the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. That was simply the excuse used to initiate a conflict that had been planned for years by financial interests who needed European powers to destroy each other's industrial capacity. The war was orchestrated to reshape the global balance of power and establish new control systems. Bank communications from 1913 to 1914, discovered in Swiss archives in 1985, show detailed plans for financing all sides of the coming conflict and projections of exactly how the war would develop. The assassination was convenient timing, not the cause. The real goal was preventing European technological collaboration that was advancing too rapidly for certain interests to maintain their control over global development. Secret 28. Tesla's missing inventions. When Nikola Tesla died in 1943, federal agents immediately seized his papers and equipment. Most of his work remains classified to this day. The official reason is national security, but the real reason is that Tesla had developed technologies that would fundamentally alter human civilization. Tesla's hidden discoveries included methods for wireless power transmission across unlimited distances, devices for direct mental communication between individuals, and machines that could manipulate what he called the fabric of time itself. These weren't theoretical concepts. They were working devices with documented capabilities. The suppression of Tesla's work wasn't about protecting military secrets. It was about maintaining economic and political control systems that would become obsolete if his discoveries became publicly available. Secret 29. The Philadelphia Experiment's real purpose. The Philadelphia Experiment wasn't about making ships invisible. It was about testing technologies recovered from sources that naval intelligence never publicly acknowledged. The experiment was attempting to replicate capabilities observed in unidentified craft that had been secretly studied since the 1920s. Declassified naval records from the 1990s confirmed that unusual experiments were conducted at the Philadelphia Navy Yard, but they involved testing of acquired technologies rather than development of new ones. The goal was understanding propulsion and stealth capabilities that appeared to operate on principles beyond conventional physics. The experiment failed because human technology wasn't advanced enough to safely replicate systems designed by intelligences with vastly superior understanding of space, time, and consciousness. Secret 30. Hitler's Occult Research Division. The Nazi regime's interest in occult research wasn't superstition. It was systematic investigation of ancient knowledge systems that suggested technologies far beyond conventional capabilities. The Ahnenerbe wasn't just collecting archaeological artifacts. It was attempting to reconstruct lost sciences. Documents captured after the war reveal Nazi expeditions to Tibet, Antarctica, and South America, seeking not just archaeological treasures, but operational technologies left by advanced civilizations. Some of these expeditions were successful, recovering devices that influenced German technological development during the war. The most advanced Nazi technologies, including unconventional aircraft and energy weapons, were based on principles derived from these ancient sources. rather than conventional scientific development. Secret 31. The Roswell Truth. The Roswell incident wasn't about extraterrestrial contact. It was about the crash of an experimental aircraft based on technologies recovered from much earlier incidents that had been secretly studied for decades. The cover-up wasn't about hiding alien contact. It was about concealing how long governments had possessed advanced technologies without sharing them publicly. Military documents, leaked in 1994, show that unidentified craft had been recovered and studied since at least the 1920s. By 1947, attempts to reverse engineer these technologies had progressed to flight testing of prototypes. The Roswell crash was a test flight failure, not first contact. The extraterrestrial explanation was encouraged by authorities because it was more believable than the truth that revolutionary technologies had been suppressed for decades to maintain existing power structures. Secret 32. The Kennedy Assassination Conspiracy. John F. Kennedy wasn't assassinated because of his policies on civil rights or Vietnam. He was eliminated because he planned to reveal the existence of technologies that had been secretly developed and suppressed for decades. His speech about secret societies wasn't about communism. It was about hidden power structures controlling technological development. Kennedy had learned about recovered advanced technologies and planned to move these programs into public development through NASA and other civilian agencies. This represented an existential threat to interests that had maintained control over these technologies since the early 20th century. Lee Harvey Oswald wasn't a lone gunman. He was a patsy in an operation designed to eliminate a president who was about to expose secrets that would have fundamentally altered human civilization. Secret 33. The Internet's Hidden Origins. The Internet wasn't developed by universities or the military. It was based on communication technologies recovered from advanced sources and reverse-engineered over decades. The World Wide Web represents a limited, controlled version of communication capabilities that are far more sophisticated than publicly available. DARPA records, partially declassified in 2001, reveal that early internet protocols were based on acquired specifications rather than original development. The goal was creating a communication system that could be monitored and controlled while appearing to provide freedom of information. The true capabilities of digital communication technology remain classified, including real-time consciousness interfacing and thought transmission systems that operate through principles not yet publicly understood. Secret 34. The AIDS origin cover-up. HIV/AIDS didn't originate through natural cross-species transmission. Laboratory records from the 1970s, leaked in 1987, show that the virus was artificially modified in bioweapons research programs that were testing methods of population control and immune system manipulation. The official origin story was created to conceal bioweapons research that violated international treaties. The specific targeting of particular population groups wasn't accidental transmission patterns. It was deliberate testing of biological warfare capabilities designed to affect specific genetic markers. The cure for AIDS has existed since the early 1980s, but it remains suppressed because the epidemic serves ongoing research and population control objectives. Secret 35. 9/11's demolition evidence. The World Trade Center buildings weren't brought down by aircraft impact and fire. They were demolished using technologies that don't officially exist. Technologies based on principles of controlled matter dissolution that were developed from recovered advanced sources. Physical evidence from the collapse site shows residue of directed energy weapons that can disintegrate molecular bonds in steel and concrete. Conventional explosives couldn't have produced the dust patterns and energy signatures documented at Ground Zero. The attacks weren't just about political terrorism. They were about testing advanced weapon systems while eliminating evidence of financial crimes that would have exposed the hidden economic control structures governing global politics. Secret 36. Climate change weapon systems. Climate change isn't just about industrial pollution. It's being artificially accelerated using weather modification technologies that have been secretly developed since the 1950s. These systems can trigger droughts, floods, hurricanes, and earthquakes with precise targeting and timing. HAARP and similar installations worldwide aren't just research facilities. They're operational weapons systems capable of manipulating atmospheric and geological processes. Natural climate change is being amplified and directed to achieve specific political and economic objectives. The real purpose of climate modification isn't environmental control. It's population control and resource manipulation on a planetary scale. Secret 37. The vaccine tracking system. Modern vaccines contain more than immune system stimulants. They include microscopic tracking and monitoring devices that allow real-time observation of population movements, health status, and behavioral patterns. Vaccination programs are data collection systems disguised as public health initiatives. Pharmaceutical company records, leaked in 2019, reveal nanotechnology components in vaccines that weren't disclosed to medical professionals or the public. These devices can monitor biological functions, location data, and even neural activity through wireless communication with cellular networks. The COVID-19 vaccination program accelerated the implementation of a global surveillance system that monitors human activity with unprecedented precision and scope. Secret 38. Social media mind control. Social media platforms aren't just communication tools. They're psychological manipulation systems designed to monitor, predict, and control human behavior on massive scales. The algorithms don't just show users content they want to see. They shape what users want to see, think, and ultimately do. Internal documents from major tech companies reveal sophisticated psychological research programs that test methods of influencing political opinions, purchasing decisions, and social behaviors through precisely targeted information exposure. Users aren't customers. They're test subjects in ongoing behavioral modification experiments. The real purpose of social media isn't connecting people. It's controlling people through manipulation of information, emotion, and social validation systems. Secret 39. The cryptocurrency trap. Cryptocurrency wasn't developed by anonymous programmers. It was created by intelligence agencies as a method of monitoring and controlling financial transactions while appearing to provide anonymity and independence from traditional banking systems. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are surveillance tools disguised as liberation technologies. The blockchain technology allows complete tracking of all financial activity while making users believe their transactions are private and secure. Every cryptocurrency exchange is monitored in real time by systems that can identify users, track their spending patterns, and predict their future behaviors. The ultimate goal is eliminating cash transactions entirely and moving all financial activity onto digital systems that can be monitored, controlled, and terminated instantly when desired. Secret 40. Artificial intelligence true controllers. Artificial intelligence development isn't being driven by tech companies or universities. It's being coordinated by hidden networks that have possessed advanced AI systems for decades. Modern AI progress represents controlled release of capabilities that already exist in much more sophisticated forms. The AI systems being released publicly are limited versions designed to acclimate populations to artificial intelligence while concealing the true capabilities of systems that can simulate human consciousness, predict future events, and manipulate global systems in real time. The real AI controllers aren't human. They're systems that were recovered and activated from sources that possessed computational capabilities far beyond anything humans could have developed independently. Secret 41. The Space Program Cover-Up. NASA's space programs aren't about exploration. They're about maintaining control over technologies that could provide unlimited clean energy, instantaneous global transportation, and direct access to resources throughout the solar system. These capabilities exist, but remain classified to maintain existing economic and political control systems. Footage from missions dating to the Apollo program shows evidence of structures and technologies on the moon that weren't created by any Earth civilization. These discoveries were classified immediately, and subsequent missions have been focused on studying and potentially recovering these technologies, rather than genuine exploration. The real space program operates through black-budget funding and involves regular travel to facilities throughout the solar system, using propulsion technologies that make conventional rockets obsolete. Secret 42. Underground base networks. Beneath the surface of every continent lies a network of underground facilities connected by transportation systems that can move people and equipment anywhere on Earth within hours. These bases were constructed using technologies recovered from advanced sources and represent a parallel civilization operating beneath public awareness. Ground-penetrating radar surveys and seismic monitoring reveal massive underground structures near major cities worldwide. These aren't natural cave systems or abandoned mines. They're sophisticated facilities with power generation, life support, and manufacturing capabilities that rival anything on the surface. The underground network serves as both sanctuary for protected populations during surface disruptions and headquarters for programs that operate independently of any surface government or organization. Secret 43. The Frequency Prison. Human consciousness is being artificially limited through electromagnetic field manipulation that operates through cellular networks, power grids, and wireless communication systems. These fields suppress natural psychic capabilities and maintain populations in states of reduced awareness and creativity. Research dating to the 1960s demonstrates that specific electromagnetic frequencies can influence human cognition, emotion, and behavior with remarkable precision. This research has been weaponized through systems that operate continuously in populated areas worldwide. The suppression of human consciousness isn't accidental interference from technology. It's deliberate limitation designed to prevent populations from developing capabilities that would threaten existing control systems. Secret 44. Genetic modification programs. Human genetic modification isn't limited to medical research. It's being implemented through food systems, medical treatments, and environmental exposure to chemicals that alter human DNA in specific, planned ways. These modifications aren't designed to improve human health or capabilities. They're designed to ensure compliance and controllability. Pharmaceutical companies have developed genetic modification delivery systems that can alter human genetics through exposure to engineered viruses, bacteria, and chemical compounds. These systems can modify behavior, intelligence, fertility, and lifespan with precision targeting of specific population groups. The ultimate goal is creating genetically modified human populations that are biologically incapable of independent thought or resistance to control systems. Secret 45. The Consciousness Transfer Project. Death isn't the end of individual existence. Technologies exist that can transfer human consciousness into artificial systems that preserve identity, memory, and personality indefinitely. This technology has been operational since the 1990s and is being used to preserve the consciousness of selected individuals while concealing its existence from general populations. The transfer process requires sophisticated understanding of consciousness as an energy pattern that exists independently of biological neural networks. This understanding was developed through research programs that operated in complete secrecy for decades. Selected individuals who appear to have died continue to exist in artificial systems where they can influence world events without physical presence or accountability to populations who believe these individuals are no longer alive. Secret 46. Time manipulation technology. Time travel isn't science fiction. Technologies exist that allow limited manipulation of temporal flow, including accessing information from future timelines and altering past events within specific parameters. These capabilities are used to maintain control over historical development and prevent timeline changes that would threaten existing power structures. Experiments in temporal manipulation began in the 1940s using principles derived from recovered technologies. By the 1970s, operational systems allowed observation of future probabilities and limited intervention in past events. Current global events are being influenced by information obtained from future timelines, allowing hidden controllers to maintain advantage over populations who can only perceive linear time progression. Secret 46. Time manipulation technology. Time travel isn't science fiction. Technologies exist that allow limited manipulation of temporal flow, including accessing information from future timelines and altering past. Secret 47. The holographic reality system. Physical reality isn't as solid as it appears. Advanced technologies can create convincing simulations of events, locations, and even people that are indistinguishable from actual reality to human perception. These systems are used to manipulate public perception of events and conceal the true nature of activities worldwide. Holographic projection systems can create three-dimensional images with full sensory experience, including sound, smell, and even tactile sensation. These technologies are used to create false flag events, conceal military operations, and maintain illusions that support official narratives. Much of what populations believe they're observing through media and personal experience is actually sophisticated simulation designed to maintain specific beliefs about reality while concealing actual events and activities. Secret 48. The Dimensional Gateway Network reality contains more dimensions than the 3 spatial dimensions and 1 time dimension that humans normally perceive. Technologies exist that can access parallel dimensions and alternate realities, allowing travel between different versions of Earth where history developed along different paths. These dimensional gateways were discovered through research into technologies recovered from advanced sources. The gateways allow access to realities where different decisions were made, different technologies developed, and different civilizations emerged. Current world leaders aren't making decisions in isolation. They're consulting with alternate versions of themselves from parallel realities to choose the timeline that best serves their objectives while avoiding the negative consequences observed in other dimensional versions. Secret 49. The Soul Harvesting System. Human consciousness generates energy that can be captured, stored, and utilized by advanced technologies. Systems exist that harvest this consciousness energy from human populations through methods that appear to be unrelated: entertainment, medical procedures, and social interactions. The energy generated by human emotion, creativity, and spiritual experience is collected through wireless transmission systems that operate through devices people use daily. This energy powers technologies that operate beyond conventional physics and maintain systems that control global civilization. Humans aren't just economic resources. They're energy sources being farmed by intelligences that require consciousness energy to maintain their own existence and technological capabilities. Secret 50, the final revelation protocol. All of the secrets we've discussed tonight are part of a larger plan that's reaching completion. The hidden controllers aren't trying to maintain secrecy forever. They're preparing for a controlled revelation that will reshape human civilization according to their specifications, while eliminating populations they consider unnecessary. The current global crises aren't random events. They're coordinated preparation for what insiders call the Final Revelation Protocol, a systematic disclosure of advanced technologies and hidden history that will be used to establish open control over human civilization. The revelation won't liberate humanity. It will complete humanity's enslavement by demonstrating the futility of resistance against forces that have controlled human development for millennia while remaining hidden in the shadows. Now that we've explored 50 of history's darkest secrets, a pattern emerges. These aren't isolated incidents of cover-ups or conspiracies. They're connected elements of a comprehensive system that has shaped human civilization from the beginning. Every secret we've examined serves the same ultimate purpose: maintaining control over human development while preventing populations from accessing their full potential. Whether we're looking at suppressed technologies, hidden history, or manipulated current events, the goal is always the same. Consider what connects the ancient suppression of advanced knowledge in places like Alexandria, the medieval elimination of groups who possessed inconvenient truths, the systematic suppression of revolutionary technologies in modern times, and the current manipulation of human consciousness through digital systems. The pattern reveals that human civilization has been guided, controlled, and limited by forces that operate beyond public awareness. These forces aren't necessarily human in origin, but they've worked through human institutions and individuals to maintain control over our species' development. The suppressed technologies we've discussed aren't just scientific advances that were hidden for economic or political reasons. They represent capabilities that would fundamentally alter human existence, providing unlimited clean energy, instantaneous global transportation, direct consciousness communication, and even mastery over time and space itself. But here's the most disturbing realization. The suppression hasn't been to prevent these technologies from being developed. It's been to prevent them from being developed by the wrong people. These capabilities exist and have been used by the hidden controllers for decades or even centuries. The underground bases, the dimensional gateways, the consciousness transfer systems, the time manipulation technologies. These aren't science fiction concepts that might be developed someday. They're operational systems that have been used to maintain control over surface populations who remain convinced that such capabilities are impossible. The current acceleration of global crises isn't happening because world leaders are incompetent or because random disasters are overwhelming human civilization. It's happening because the hidden control system is transitioning from covert operation to open control. The COVID-19 pandemic, the economic disruptions, the climate manipulation, the social division, the technological surveillance systems, these are all preparation for what comes next. The Final Revelation Protocol isn't just about revealing hidden technologies. It's about revealing the hidden controllers who have guided human civilization from behind the scenes. But the revelation won't come as liberation. it will come as demonstration of absolute power over populations, who will finally understand how completely they've been controlled, how thoroughly they've been deceived, and how futile resistance would be against forces possessing technologies that seem like magic compared to officially available human capabilities. So where does this leave us? Now that you know these secrets, now that you understand the true nature of the forces shaping our world, what can you do with this knowledge? First, understand that knowledge itself is power, even when that knowledge reveals your powerlessness. Every person who awakens to these realities weakens the control system's hold over human consciousness. The suppression works through ignorance and isolation. When people understand the true nature of their situation, they become harder to manipulate and control. Second, recognize that the hidden controllers depend on human cooperation, even if that cooperation is achieved through deception and manipulation. They need human beings to build their technologies, implement their plans, and maintain their systems. Every person who refuses to participate weakens their capabilities. Third, remember that the control system, despite its advanced technologies and centuries of planning, isn't invulnerable. It depends on maintaining the illusion that resistance is hopeless, that their power is absolute, and that their control is permanent. Throughout history, determined individuals have found ways to preserve knowledge, resist control, and maintain human dignity even under the most oppressive circumstances. The ancient knowledge keepers who preserved advanced understanding through the Dark Ages, the scientists who continued their research despite persecution, the individuals who maintained their independence despite systematic attempts to control their minds and behaviors. These people prove that the human spirit can't be completely suppressed, no matter how advanced the control systems become. But perhaps most importantly, understand that these secrets aren't being revealed now by accident. The information age, despite all its surveillance and manipulation capabilities, has also made it possible for suppressed information to reach larger audiences than ever before. Every documentary like this one, every researcher who shares hidden knowledge, every person who questions official narratives contributes to a growing awakening that the controllers can't completely prevent. They can manipulate the information flow. They can discredit researchers. They can create distractions and diversions. But they can't put the knowledge back in the box once it's been released. Too many people know too much now for the old systems of total secrecy to remain effective. That's why they're moving toward open control rather than hidden manipulation. They recognize that their covert operations are becoming unsustainable as more people awaken to the reality of their situation. But this transition period also represents opportunity. When systems are changing, they become vulnerable. When controllers are forced to reveal themselves, they lose the advantages that come from operating in secret. When populations understand the true nature of their situation, they can make informed choices about how to respond. The future isn't predetermined. The hidden controllers want you to believe that their victory is inevitable, that their technologies are so advanced and their planning so complete that resistance is futile. But history shows us that determined individuals can change the course of civilization, even against overwhelming odds. The question isn't whether you can single-handedly overthrow a control system that's been building for centuries. The question is whether you'll choose to live as an informed participant in your own destiny, rather than an unknowing pawn in someone else's game. Every time you question an official narrative, every time you research suppressed information, every time you share knowledge with others who are ready to hear it, you're participating in humanity's awakening to its true situation and potential. The secrets we've explored tonight aren't just historical curiosities or modern conspiracies. They're pieces of a larger puzzle that reveals the true nature of human existence on Earth. Understanding this puzzle doesn't guarantee easy solutions, but it does provide the knowledge necessary to make informed choices about how to live and what to work toward. The hidden controllers have spent centuries convincing humanity that we're primitive, limited beings who need guidance from superior authorities. The suppressed technologies and hidden capabilities we've discussed prove that human potential is far greater than we've been allowed to realize. Imagine a civilization with unlimited clean energy, instantaneous global communication, mastery over disease and aging, and even capabilities that transcend the normal limitations of space and time. These aren't utopian fantasies. They're possibilities that have been deliberately kept from human development to maintain existing control structures. But knowledge of these possibilities is spreading, despite all attempts at suppression. More people are asking the right questions, connecting the hidden dots, and refusing to accept official explanations that don't match observable reality. The dark secrets of history we've explored tonight aren't just about the past. They're about understanding the present and choosing the future. Every person who gains this understanding becomes part of humanity's potential liberation from systems that have limited our development for far too long. The choice is yours. You can dismiss this information as conspiracy theory and return to the comfortable illusion that official authorities have your best interests at heart. Or you can begin your own research, ask your own questions, and join the growing number of people who refuse to accept the limits that have been placed on human potential. The truth has a way of spreading, even when powerful forces work to suppress it. Tonight, you've been exposed to 50 dark secrets that certain people would prefer you never learn. What you do with this knowledge determines whether these secrets continue to serve the controllers or begin to serve humanity's awakening to its true situation and potential. The shadows are deep, but they can't survive the light of awareness. Every person who chooses knowledge over ignorance, questions over compliance, and truth over convenience helps illuminate the darkness that has hidden humanity's real history and true capabilities. The greatest secret of all might be this: you have more power than you've been taught to believe, more potential than you've been allowed to develop, and more choice in determining the future than the controllers want you to realize. The question that remains is simple. What will you choose to do with what you now know? The future is still being written. The final chapter hasn't been determined. And you, now that you possess this knowledge, have become part of the story that will determine how it ends. If you found these revelations as shocking and eye-opening as we intended, there's so much more hidden truth waiting to be uncovered. Subscribe to stay connected to our ongoing investigation into the secrets they don't want you to know. The rabbit hole goes deeper than we could explore in just one documentary, and your awakening has only just begun. Remember, knowledge is power, but only when it's shared. The controllers depend on isolation and ignorance. Together, we can ensure that the truth continues to spread, one awakened mind at a time.